Voltrons, happy Friday to you and yours. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. It is the 14th of March. Welcome in. Glad you guys can be with us. It's been a great week. Should be a great weekend. It will be a busy afternoon for us. It's going to be a unique one as well. Here's what we got coming up for you. So we're going to give you 30 minutes of content right now. The reason why is new Ravens wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins will address reporters at his introductory press conference in Owings Mills in 27 minutes. It's approximate start at 12:30. So our plan is to listen to that. And rather than listening to that in real time, we're going to give you guys a chance and ourselves a chance to process what we hear over those 20 to 30 minutes. And so we're going to go right up until 12:30, finish, go watch the press conference. And as soon as it wraps up and as soon as Sarah and I are able to put our thoughts together, we're starting a new show sometime in the 1 o'clock hour to give you our instant reaction to that press conference. So that is our business. That's what's coming up over the course of the next hour plus. And Sarah, in the meantime, Mina Kimes had some things to say and made a bold statement about the Ravens' start to free agency. Marlon Humphrey's contract restructure is very notable, and it says something specific, perhaps, about Eric DeCosta's plans. So Mark Andrews' buzz continues, and much more. Great to see you, and here we go. Condensed version of the vault. Let's see what
version. And you know what? There's people in the chat that don't think we can do it because we usually say we're going to finish at a time, and then we usually end like 30 minutes later. Challenge accepted. Let's go. So, as we know, the Ravens have made a couple of moves, none bigger than one Ronnie Stanley. He was the one that set everything off. He had to be signed. They needed the left side, blind side protector for Lamar Jackson. Mina Kimes and Greg Rosenthal on the Mina Kimes show with Omaha Productions talked about how big that signing was, not just for the Ravens, but in the context of the entire NFL.
I like because of what it says about the Ravens is the Ronnie Stanley deal. $44 million guaranteed. And it's not like Stanley was choosing between bad teams. The Patriots, I think, were going to go over the top with money. But the Chiefs, I think, were building their offseason plan around signing Ronnie Stanley. And he chose to stay with the Ravens. They made him take a pay cut before last season. You have to be a pretty great organization from the top to the bottom, the coaching staff to the administration, all of that stuff to make a dude take a pay cut. And then the following year, he's maybe taking less money or he's giving you at least the benefit of the doubt and wanting to stay home. And this is how, great teams can stay great. So I just love that.
The Ronnie Stanley deal was my favorite of the entire free agency from a team perspective. Clearly the best tackle option in a fairly weak class. They ended up paying him at an annual rate that doesn't even move him. He's 8th at $20 million APY. Like, that is such a bargain for a player who was really good and healthy last year, ranked 9th in ESPN's pass block win rate metric, allowed only 2 sacks. I think this is a huge win for the organization.
So Bobby, she obviously saying there that it was the biggest win of any team had in free agency. Bobby, people are often in my mentions on Twitter telling me the Ravens haven't done much at all. They haven't done this. They haven't done that. And it's just like, how can you overlook Ronnie? And it's kind of one of those things where you just already expected him to be back. It's like, well, we had him last year. He's been here since he was drafted. You kind of take him for granted. But then as soon as you see that the Chiefs want him, or that the New England Patriots and the Washington Commanders were ready to pony up $4 million to $5 million more per year, which would end up being up to $15 million more than what he got with Baltimore. Mina's absolutely right. That is not only the biggest win in the NFL because of what he brings for Lamar Jackson on the field, but for the bargain they got him at.
Yeah, just because it didn't receive the pub that a skill position would, right, in free agency, doesn't take away from how meaningful it is for the organization, for the player, not only for Ronnie, but for Lamar and the protectiveness that comes with that now for the next 3 years at the very least. So, yeah, it's offensive linemen don't get that kind of pub, Sarah. We know it. We live in a quarterback world. We live in a wide receiver world, and depending on
stacking world,
for sure. But ultimately, Lamar's health should be put in front of everything. And in a sense, that's what the Ravens did this offseason by making sure that 79 was locked up.
I would like to know, like, who's in the running to be a better? I'm sure there's people that are next to Ronnie. Like, what signing was better? What signing was better? Because there's so many positions, even including, we all know that I would have loved to have DK Metcalf, but that's a dependent position. It's dependent on what happens if the offensive line does, keep things together. It's, can the quarterback get it out? Can this tight end get the right block? I mean, it's just nonstop. And so it's like, what free agent move is even up there? What is up there? What's in the conversation? And I think Mina's right. And to Greg's point, the fact, again, he's like, the organization culture to have, you had to take a pay cut and then you come back and you're a bargain again, maybe up to $15 million after losing out on $7.5 million last year. It says a lot about the Ravens organization. And so, Bobby, while we're on this trend of looking at what national analysts are saying about the Ravens, that one being a big proclamation that it was the best free agency move of any team. Well, how about AJ Hawk over on the Pat McAfee show? They were discussing the signing of DeAndre Hopkins and discussing whether or not, they pointed out that some fans are split on this signing and whether it was good.
Henry had like a full resurgence. Not that he was ever down, but last year he looked great. I think we're going to find out what that question's answer is, and I'm excited to watch them continue to build over there in Baltimore.
I love watching D-Hop play football, and I'm sure the Ravens fans probably split on this signing. I'm sure a lot of them are like saying, just like what you're saying about Cup. You see a lot on the internet, D-Hop's washed, but he's a competitor. He's going to go out there and work and try to put his best foot forward on a contending team, so he'll be playing meaningful football again. So we'll see a ton of D-Hop next year.
What is it, $5 million? $5 million for D-Hop, up to $6 million potentially. Who knows what the incentives are in all of the contracts. Lamar Jackson gets another weapon, though, AJ, which I think is good news for Lamar and good news for the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't know how, if you're like a Ravens fan, how you could be upset with this signing. It's D-Hop. It's not like you're paying him $45 million a year. It's a 1 year, $6 million deal with the Ravens. So, I think it's all upside when you think of this. So,
Bobby says, I don't know if you're a Ravens fan, how you can be upset with this signing. What say you?
Yeah, it just goes back to what we were saying off the top. It's not necessarily the same as an offensive lineman, because DeAndre does receive pub because of his name, maybe not because of what he's done in recent years, right? We all know the production has fallen off from where he once was, but we'll continue to say it. The Ravens aren't paying him to be what he once was, and they don't need him to be what he once was. If he finds shades of what he once was, oh boy, that is gravy on the Thanksgiving dinner table, Sarah. That is gravy for this team. If he can sip from the fountain of youth like other players have in recent years on the other side of the football, like a Kyle Van Noy, like a Calais Campbell, so on and so forth, that's going to pay major dividends for them. And by the way, this number 10 that you see photoshopped, just tweeted out by the Ravens, confirmed he will be wearing number 10 in black and purple this year.
Ooh, who had number 10? Did anybody have it?
Oh gosh, who the heck last had 10?
I'm just wondering if somebody had to give it up, the way they just did that with Devontae Adams over in LA with the Rams and Puka Nacua. So I don't know. We'll look that up. But for those that didn't hear off the top, we are making this a 30-minute show because D-Hop is now in Baltimore. He's in the Ravens facility. He's officially signed his contract. He's got his number, as Bobby just said, and he will have a press conference at 12:30. So we will stop when that starts, and then we'll come back on the other side of that presser and give a second podcast later today.
And chat's helping us out. Arthur Mollett last wore 10. And he was just released, so it was wide open.
It was wide open. Thank you, chat. Speaking of chat, let's get to a couple super chats and new members, and then we'll move on to our next topic. I think Daniel Rodriguez, he joined yesterday. Thank you, Daniel. Devin, same thing. Kevin Henry says, have you ever seen Two Girls, One Cup?
Is it a movie?
I have no idea. So
we'll put it on our list. Put it on our list, Kevin. Assuming it's a movie. Austin says, welcome to Baltimore, Voltrons.
I
love the play on words there. And thanks for being here, Austin. And how about a 50 spot on a Friday from Park Heights Prophet, Sarah?
I love you, Park Heights, right now. I love you. Park Heights Prophet checking in, he says, Listener from day one. Love the content. Time to put my dollars into a great product. Still ready to write those pregame speeches for you. LOL. And he not only stopped with that $50 super chat there, Bobby, he also became a brand new Voltron, became a member of the Vault. Appreciate you, Park Heights Prophet.
So a fitty spot, and then he signs up for a channel membership, which you can do by clicking on the link that's included as a pinned comment in the live chat. That's what's up, Park Heights. We appreciate you guys for being here. And another channel member has just come in as well. It's a new feature that we just rolled out last week. We've got over 50 members. It's a great way to support the channel. It's a great way to give back. It's also a great way to cash in on some perks that we have available to you, some incentives for those of you who are loyal daily subscribers, daily listeners. Electra Entertainment becomes the latest channel member to do so. Welcome, Electra. Welcome, Park Heights. Welcome, Devon or Devin and D-Rod. Appreciate you guys for being here. Over 1,400 of you concurrently joining us today. What you got going on over there?
Well, I was just going to say those last two brand new members, Park Heights Prophet, not just a Voltron, but Voltron Plus and Electra Entertainment, Super Voltron.
Awesome. Yeah, there's 3 different tiers, which is all available by clicking on that link. You can either press join right by the subscribe button, or you can click the link either in the show notes or as a pinned comment in the live chat. Sarah, it wasn't all that long after we finished up yesterday that Brian McFarland had a little scoop for the win. The Ravens have done a max restructure with Marlon Humphrey by reducing his $18 million salary and roster bonus to the league minimum of $1.255 million and converting over $16.7 million to a bonus. The theme of the offseason here, and maybe even recent years, if you go back to Odell, 2 void years were added on the back end of this deal. The restructure creates over $13.3 much needed dollars, meaning millions of dollars in 2025 cap space that immediately becomes available. Sarah, this is not a pay cut. This is a restructure and a big deal for Eric DeCosta, and gives him a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of breathing room, if you will, because there hasn't been much.
Well, he's digging himself out of a hole is what he's doing. He's digging himself out of a deep hole of, money that's, already been spent. So Bobby, this restructure I have 3 takeaways from this restructure. Number one, because this is a massive amount of money, and instead of, it's like you said, it's a restructure and not an extension. Number one, the Ravens are committed to keeping all of their all pros and Pro Bowlers for another chance at a bite at the apple. Bobby, when you are paying players, whether they are outside players or whether they are players that you already have, but they're studs nonetheless, when you are manipulating the cap to either bring one in or to keep them around, Stanley, Marlowe, Lamar Jackson, Roquan, list goes on. When you are manipulating the cap like this with restructures and void years, that tells me the Ravens are all in on getting another bite of the apple. Now, I know for some, being all in means that you went out somewhere else and you got somebody else and brought them in. That feels more like an all-in move. I don't know who that person is or who the outside person is that should have come in or this and that people want. But to me, when you are void years for Ronnie Stanley, 3 of them. Now we already know with D-Hop, 3 void years. Marlon Humphrey, restructuring and void years. You are manipulating your cap because you cannot afford them. You cannot afford them. You're pushing the credit card bill down the street, and the bills will come due at some point. But this to me is like we are all in and keeping our studs and getting another bite at the apple. And to Brian McFarland's point here, with that done, he's got the Ravens at about he's got him at now 10 million over, which is good. So now they're cap compliant. So they got about 10 million there. And there's probably more because he didn't expect all, he didn't have in here. He put all 5 million of Hopkins in this year when really they added void years and it's really only about a $2 million cap charge. So now they have about 12 million when you put that in from Hopkins. So they, like you said, he's got some breathing room. but he dug himself more out of a hole and can now breathe. Anything you want to add on the all-in kind of takeaway?
No, because that's exactly what this is, right? There's a unique temporary window where they're in the middle of right now before Lamar skyrockets to over 70 million next year. And they understand that this is temporary. You have no idea how much longer this window of opportunity will go, and you better capitalize on it. And to your point, take another bite at the apple, make another run, or as Tylan Wallace said earlier this week when he was re-signed, run it back, flock. That's what they're trying to do.
Yep. And by the way, it was not 3 void years for DeAndre Hopkins. It's 4 void years for a guy that you signed for 1 year. This is cap manipulation to the extreme, what he's doing. Okay. Second takeaway, Bobby, is what Brian McFarland tweeted earlier today, and I completely agree with him. He said, lots of questions regarding the use of void years, and there are a ton. He's like, I could be totally wrong, but to me, this indicates that they are keeping Andrews at 11 million. This part I'm not so certain about yet, but he says they're keeping Andrews at 11 million this year. And they do not, this part I totally agree with, they do not want to restructure Lamar's deal and add to his 26 and 27 cap numbers. Let's remember, they're already at 75 million each in 26 and 27. You restructure Lamar and it's 80 million per year. He said they seem to want to avoid that and cede more leverage. He's already got a ton. That doesn't mean they won't try and get a deal done, meaning an extension. They could still try to get an extension done, but they are not restructuring Lamar, which is the first place you could have gone, given that you expect him to be around with the franchise for a while. So that's the second takeaway. They're trying not to restructure Lamar. Extension is still on the table, but restructure's out. Third, and I don't have this written down in here, but my third takeaway is that because they didn't extend Marlo, Bobby, I thought that they might extend him because I thought, well, you extend him because you think he's going to be with the Ravens for a while. Now, maybe they still do extend him. Maybe they do it down the road when he's making that change from cornerback to safety, and then they get him at a cheaper deal rather than extending him now. But because they did not extend him, and they're probably going to need to pick high for cornerback again. Because now he's not here long term, right? If you had extended him. Now we're getting closer to the end of his deal, and now I want to look it up to make sure I know when that is. Marlon Humphrey spot track. And so it's like, okay, are they already getting ready for that youth movement, which started last year with Nate Wiggins?
And Tampa in terms of draft compensation.
Right.
We only saw Nate, but.
Right. I just feel like they always get like that 4th round, kind of 3rd to 5th round cornerbacks. That's just like an annual thing that they do. Yeah. So right now, Marlon Humphrey's under contract for 25 and 26. So now maybe they look to do a restructure next year, because next year his cap hit would be 26 million given this restructure. He's now at 26 million. And in 27, when he's not even on the team because of these void years, he will cost in 2027 $11.9 million, almost $12 million in 2027 when he's not going to be on the team unless they extend him.
Hey, real
quick. This is what restructures do. Now he's 26 million in his final year and 12 million in a year that he's not even slated to be on the team.
Hey, so real quick, this conversion into a bonus. Do you have any idea how far down the road that's paid out?
He gets it all right now.
It's right up front.
Yes.
It's just a different allocation of resources.
So I had people on Twitter say, we should thank Marlon Humphrey. No. This is not a Ronnie Stanley situation with what Ronnie Stanley did last year. Ronnie Stanley took a pay cut. So the way contracts are structured is you have a base salary every year, and then you have some sort of bonuses or guarantees, right? So when you get a signing bonus, you get that signing bonus all right away. But for the cap, they spread that signing bonus out. Okay. And so that's why you're able to backload people's contracts. It's with that bonus. And so what they did here is they took some base salaries. And by the way, when you cut somebody, you get rid of their base salary. Okay, but if you already paid him in a bonus, you have to keep it on the cap. So when they give him this big bonus check, it's like, cool. Because if I got cut tomorrow, I wouldn't have gotten this money because it's my base salary. But you just converted it to a bonus. So now it's guaranteed and it's in my pocket. Now you have to figure out where to put it on the cap, whether I'm here or not. I just got that money. So when players restructure, you don't need to thank them. You thank the general manager because the players are like, sweet, I'll take all that money now because it wasn't guaranteed tomorrow.
Yeah, but it's also got to be typically a player they're targeting is somebody they know they're going to have through the foreseeable future, and that he's going to play for you, right? And then he's somebody that's a candidate to be a key piece, right? I mean,
that's more of an extension. I mean, maybe. I mean, to me, with him being at 26 million, I mean, it's not necessarily. I'll put it that way. I would say sometimes yes. Like, so for example, with Matabike, like if they restructure Matabike or Roquan Smith or Marlon, you're like, yeah, he's going to be here for the most part. So I agree with you. Yes, but not always. Cause now at this point, it's like, are they really going to keep this at 26 million next year? Something's going to change.
Yeah. I was just curious about that though, because like you said, you're getting mentions are flooding, right? With people and Marlon's mentions are flooding. I saw it yesterday on TweetDeck. Like, thank you so much. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so selfless. You're this, you're that. No, guys, it's not a pay cut.
No, it's not a pay cut.
If anything, he's somewhere in Hawaii right now rejoicing with Ronnie.
Yeah.
Because they both just got paid.
So we're going to need Voltrons to educate people. The key words you want to hear: restructure or pay cut. Celebrate for sure a pay cut and go and tell that player thank you. That's what Ronnie Stanley did last year. You hear a restructure, you be like, dang, dude, you just got paid.
Congrats.
You just got paid, and we're going to have to pay for it later in the coming years.
Okay.
That is why, and this is why people don't understand why I said the Ravens are all in. No, they're not. No, they're not. They didn't bring anybody new. I hear what you're saying. That's a different definition if they went out and like figured out a way to get Myles Garrett or something, which was never going to happen, right? But it's like when you have this many void years and you have this many restructures, you need to brace yourself because this might be the last like bite at the apple, because 80 million next year with Lamar, 26 million next year with Marlon. Like, go and look at these things, guys. Every time the Ravens got knocked out of the playoffs, it's like, okay, we'll run it back. Okay, we'll run it back. We got Lamar. We got all this. Next year, they're going to have to make some cuts.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting next year. So enjoy it this year because it is an all-in year.
5 minutes out from the scheduled time of DeAndre Hopkins' press conference. We're obviously going to go right up until 12:30, and if we get a couple extra minutes, because we are going a little bit long here, we'll take them. But again, I've got it up over here. I'm sure you guys have it where you are. We're going to be watching for the DeAndre Hopkins press conference, and if you're just tuning in, this is going to be a half of a show, meaning when we finish up our first half of this show and the press conference begins, we're cutting the live stream, and then we'll be back with you on the other end of the press conference to give you our instant reaction to his intro presser. Let's continue.
Okay, so Cole Jackson and his, the streets sourcing has been somewhat reliable. Not somewhat. I don't feel like he's missed recently. He certainly was right on the Ronnie Stanley stuff. He tweeted yesterday. Not that you need the streets to say this, because we've been saying this anyway, given the cap situation. He says the streets have indicated that there's been an uptick in trade interest in tight end Mark Andrews after Evan Ingram signed a deal. So he's a tight end. They got a 2-year deal, I think about $23 million. He chose the Broncos over the Chargers. The Chargers, one of the teams out there looking for a veteran tight end. So after Evan chose the Broncos, that Charger stuff seems to be picking up. Cole points out Andrews is due his roster bonus on Monday. Regardless, expect the path forward to be solved soon. Somebody asked Jeff Zrebeck, have you seen this smoke about the Mark Andrews trade? Jeff says, the smoke? No, but I'm not dense. Andrews is due a $4 million roster bonus next week, so presumably a decision on his future nears. Chargers obviously looking for a tight end. Other teams might be as well. Not hard to connect the dots. So we'll see. Chargers is one team. And Bobby, we kind of predicted this, right? We didn't need the streets to tell us that when this deadline came, this is the time where other teams have to decide, because if the Ravens take this $4 million roster, bonus. He's staying in 2025. You're not trading him away after you just paid him that roster bonus. So other teams know if you want Mark, you have to do this before Monday. And then that's probably why Cole's hearing, that there's more interest because there's probably talks. Evan's been signed. Mark's deadline is coming on Monday. So this is it. You need to make a decision. You need to make a decision to other teams.
Another decision looming is who's backing up Lamar Jackson. And it's not going to be Josh Johnson. Not going to be Emory Jones, their undrafted rookie from last year. Probably not going to be Devin Leary, who was their day 3 pick out of Kentucky. And it's not going to be Gardner Minshew, the Raven killer, Sarah, because he reached agreement to back up Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. It's a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. And of course, we all know what's happened the last 2 years, 2 different teams, right? First, the Colts on a rainy day in Baltimore, and then just the home opener last year as a Vegas Raider. Gardner Minshew comes into Baltimore back-to-back years with different teams and finds a way to beat the Ravens. So, as Jonas notes, Jeff also noted it online yesterday, it's starting to kind of dwindle a little bit in terms of the backup quarterbacks that are available. And guess what? This isn't even updated right here because Taylor Heineke signed yesterday. He's going to the Chargers to back up Justin Herbert on a 1-year deal. So, or was he already there prior? It looks like he may have been there already. Yeah, it looks like it's a 1-year extension, the NFL tweeted. So I guess he was there already. I haven't kept up with him since he left Washington. Taylor's been all over the league. But some of these names are still available. Sarah, is there one on here that you feel like would be the best fit or that jumps off the page most intriguing to you to back up Lamar?
Well, I would love Jameis Winston, but if I'm Jameis Winston, I'm not coming to Baltimore because I'm looking for a place where I have a better chance to start.
Sure.
So maybe he wants to return to the Browns, even though they also benched him. But there's got to be other places where he'll have a better chance to start. So I think that would be the best, but for the Ravens, but maybe not for him. I guess other names on here. I mean, it's not looking, great. Trey Lance, Cooper Rush.
Trey would be my number 1 just for what it's worth. He'd be my number 1. I think I'd have Wentz at 2. Carson Wentz
sure,
at 2.
Wentz up there. Yeah. Listen, the bar is low. Keep us at 50-50 if Lamar is out for a couple of games. So it was made official. Pat Ricard went in and signed with the Ravens. And then he went on the lounge, the Ravens podcast over there. And this is hilarious when his agent told him another team was sniffing around.
The free agency process and your agent reached out and said, hey, so-and-so has interest. In the back of my head, I'm like, there's no effing way I'm ever going to this place. So I'm not going to say where. I don't care if they pay me $1 billion. I don't know.
No effing way. I don't care if they pay me. So Ronnie Stanley taking less money. Pat Ricard being like, no effing way. I think these guys want to run it back. They are itching at this, Bobby. They want to try it again. And the Ravens are putting their money where the mouth is to make it happen.
Well, they've been in the program. They've gone through, what and back, right? They've understood what it feels like to lose an AFC championship game and what it feels like to cough up a divisional round game in Buffalo because of a lack of player execution. I mean, it's been heartbreak. There's been a lot of heartbreak around here. So absolutely. And by the way, we do still have a couple minutes in front of us. The YouTube show itself for the press conference has begun, but DeAndre has not popped up on the screen yet. He could any second, but that's where we stand right now.
Yeah.
Jake Hummel, your newest special teamer, your newest reserve linebacker for the Ravens, spent his last several years in LA. And guess where he was prior to that?
With
Charlie Kohler in the air out of pure jubilation, apparently, as an Iowa State Cyclone.
That's awesome. Yeah, Charlie had retweeted the news with the heart emoji, super happy. And then Iowa State put out this photo of them together. That's really cool. So nice reunion for them.
And look, don't look now, but there's another Iowa State Cyclone. They're starting to form in Baltimore. TJ Tampa's the other. And as our guy Dreams has said for weeks now, Jaden Higgins is his wide receiver prospect that he likes. Guess where he plays? Iowa State. Let's see how things shake out.
Meanwhile, Odafe Owe's younger brother again hit a buzzer beater to beat. Who did they beat here?
How about this? Ortega played for Oklahoma last year. Transfers to Kentucky, Sarah. Okay, in the post-John Calipari era. And what has he done in recent weeks? Oh, just a couple buzzer beaters to beat his former team, including last night in March Madness. He dropped 27, and you already know, big bro, oh, he was on hand for this one.
Oh, we got it. There's DeAndre. Let's finish up here. Any more quick hits?
Well, I'll just say
no, that's it.
Those two sound exactly alike. And now this player heads to the podium to address reporters for the first time as a Baltimore Raven. We're going to go right now. Sarah, if you want to jump off.
Just a couple super chats here.
Yep.
You got them. I'll jump off and start grabbing this stuff for our next show.
Do your thing. I'll wrap up here in a second.
Peace out.
Asmodeus hits us with a super chat. That guy is a troll. Don't watch that movie. 2 Girls in 1 Cup ain't kosher. Keep Sarah's innocence or her innocent mind away from that. Oh, I can only imagine what movie we're okay. JP Buggs says Stoney Case, Eric Zier, Chris Moore, Jeremy Ross, Troy Smith, DeMarcus Robinson, Arthur Maulette. Do not watch 2 Girls 1 Cup. And I guess those are all former wearers of number 10 in Baltimore. Yvette becomes our newest channel member. Thank you, Yvette. We're over 50 of them now, and we're so pleased to be rolling out that new feature here inside the vault for you Voltrons. Go click on the link that's included in the show notes. It's also a pinned comment if you'd like to do the same. Rave Kingdom says, I hate when BNS and media changes narratives of our fans' anger. No one's mad at DeAndre Hopkins, but we're mad as in another season to grab an old F. I don't know what you're trying to say, Rave, but we're just regurgitating or relaying what we see in the Twitter world. And as we always say, we never put words in fans' mouth. It's always a percentage of the fan base. We appreciate the super chat, brother. And we appreciate you guys for hanging out for this condensed version right here inside the vault. DeAndre Hopkins meeting with reporters for the first time as a Raven. It is 12:35 right now. Sarah and I hope to be back in under an hour for our instant reaction to whatever he has to say. We'll catch up with you then. And prior to leaving, let me make sure I get my patrons in here, David Keck and Asmodeus. That's right, you, Richard. Thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate the support that you give us through Patreon. You are integral members of the Vault's Patreon community, and we appreciate your support. Patreon.com/RavensVault podcast is how you can learn more about what we're building and if you'd like to get involved. So catch up with us in the 1 o'clock hour. Turn those notifications on. Like the video on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And Sarah and I will be back with you in just a bit. Wait for that notification.